I heard the knock long before I saw their faces. 3 frantic bangs, one after another, the kind that don't belong to loved ones or neighbors, but to people who have already decided they're owed something. At first I thought it was a mistake, the wrong door, someone desperate for another apartment. But the knocking didn't stop. It grew sharper, louder, demanding. And then Lily's voice sliced through the wood, high, shaking, and already accusing. "Ava, open the door. Please, it's an emergency." I froze halfway through, pouring my morning coffee. Something about her tone made my stomach tighten. Not fear, not urgency, expectation, the kind I knew too well. When I finally opened the door, Lily shoved past me, sobbing so hard her shoulders shook. I barely had time to catch the scent of her perfume before Connor stepped inside too, not bothering to wait for an invitation. His jaw was tight, his eyes cold, and he didn't even pretend to hide the tension in his posture. Whatever this was, it wasn't just a visit. "It's bad," Ava, Lily cried, grabbing my hands with fingers that trembled more from adrenaline than sadness. "We need your help. We need it now." Connor tossed a thick envelope onto my kitchen table, the paper slapping against the wood like a threat. "We don't have time for explanations," he said. "Just open it." The envelope felt heavier than it should, like it carried the weight of something poisonous. I hadn't even looked at the papers yet, and already I knew whatever was inside would change everything. I didn't know then that they'd come for $300,000. I didn't know they'd try to push me back into the old life I'd spent years crawling out of. I didn't know this was the beginning of the last time I would ever let them inside my home. What I did know, what hit me harder than anything, was the look in Lily's eyes when I finally opened the envelope. Desperation and entitlement, a fusion I had seen before, in someone else. Someone who had shaped us both, our father. And in that first terrible moment as she whispered, "Please, Ava, you have to save us," I realized something that made my skin go cold. My sister had come here not for help, but to claim me, like property, like I existed only to clean up her life. And that was the moment before the threats, before the shouting, before the door. They later tried to break open that I knew something had snapped inside me, and nothing would ever be the same. Lily collapsed into a chair, sobbing into her palms, while Connor stood over her with the detached impatience of someone inconvenienced by another person's emotions. I had seen him perform sympathy before, light touches to Lily's back, concerned whispers, but all of that was gone today. He wasn't even pretending. "What's going on?" I asked carefully. Connor crossed his arms. "Just give her a minute. She's hysterical." "I'm not hysterical," Lily said, though her voice trembled. "I'm scared." I took a slow breath and looked between them. "Tell me what's happened." Lily pushed the envelope toward me. "Just read it." Inside were loan documents, payment demands, and a figure at the bottom in bold red letters, $300, $1,000. I blinked, not understanding. "What is this?" "It's my debt," Connor said flatly. "Our debt." Lily grabbed my wrist. "Ava, please, they're threatening to come after us. If we don't pay tonight, I repeated. "A debt of $300,000 is due tonight." Connor's jaw clenched. "There's interest, penalties." It got complicated. I stared at him. "What kind of debt is this?" Lily squeezed my hand. "It doesn't matter. What matters is you can save us. You have the money. You're the only one we trust." Trust, a word that landed like a punch. I stood slowly, letting the papers fall back to the table. "I don't have that kind of money." Lily's tears stopped just long enough for her to stare at me, stunned. "Yes, you do. You have savings. Dad left us assets. You got more than I did. And you want me to drain everything?" I said quietly. "To save your family." She snapped, the first crack of anger slipping through. Connor leaned forward, his voice smooth. "You're not married. No kids. You live modestly. You don't need that money. It's just sitting there." I felt the room tilt slightly. That sentence. That exact sentence. Our father had said those same words when he took money from me at 20, at 22, at 24. "You don't need it. You're just one person. Your sister needs more. You're fine." And now Lily spoke with that same certainty. "Ava," she whispered, tugging my sleeve, "if you don't help, something terrible will happen. Please. You're my sister. You always help me. You always do the right thing. Always, always, always." It wrapped around my chest like a chain. "I can't," I said softly. Lily stared. "What? I can't give you $300,000. Her face hardened. It was subtle at first, a tightening around her mouth, the soft collapse of her brows. Then she pulled her hands away and stood slowly. "You're choosing to let something happen to us," she whispered. "I'm choosing not to destroy my life," I said. Connor scoffed. Classic Ava. Self-centered. My heartbeat thudded painfully. Self-centered. "You know exactly what he means," Lily cried. "You've always been like this, hoarding what you have, pretending you're better than us." I stepped backward as if her words had physical force. "I've never pretended that." "You left us," Lily said. "You left the family. You left me alone with him." My breath caught. Her. She didn't mean Connor. She meant our father. And for a second guilt flared sharp and bright. Because I had left. I had escaped. But I forced myself to focus. "Lily, I'm not responsible for what he did. Or for this debt." Connor stepped closer. Too close. "We're not leaving until you transfer the money." My pulse spiked. "You need to leave now." "No," he said. Lily's tears vanished entirely, now replaced with something colder. "Ava, don't make this ugly. Ugly." The word tasted familiar. Our father had thrown it around like a stone. "Get out," I said, voice shaking. Connor smirked. "You think locking your door is going to save you? We know where you work, where you park, where you jog." A chill shot through me. He was bluffing. But was he? "Last chance," Ava Lily whispered. "Help your family." I opened the front door. "Get out," Lily's voice cracked. "If you don't help us, you'll regret it." "Out," I repeated. Connor grabbed the envelope and shoved it into my chest so hard it stung. "You'll think about it, because when things get bad tonight, you'll know it was your fault." They left without another word. I stood frozen in the doorway, long after their car peeled away my fingers, trembling so violently I had to grip the doorframe to stay upright. $300,000. Threats. Manipulation. The past clawing its way back. I closed the door quietly, and the second the lock clicked, a memory hit me so hard I almost doubled over. My father standing over me at 17. The first time I dared say no. His voice a cold growl. "You think you can survive without us? You can't. You never will." I pressed my hands to my face and forced myself to breathe. Because every cell in my body knew what this was. Not an emergency, not an accident, a pattern, a cycle, a trap. The kind I had almost died in once already. And I realized something. As I sank slowly into the kitchen chair, Lily and Connor weren't just asking for help. They were reenacting the very same roles we had been trained into since childhood. The takers and the giver. But I wasn't that girl anymore. I wasn't the daughter who stayed quiet. I wasn't the sister who paid to earn love. I wasn't the woman who sacrificed herself because someone else demanded it. Not anymore. My phone lay on the table screen, dark and waiting. For the first time in years, I didn't hesitate. I picked it up, scrolled to the name I hadn't dialed in months. And with a breath that felt like ripping free of a rope, I whispered into the quiet room, "Margaret, I need your help." I woke up to the faint echo of a door creaking somewhere in the house, the kind of sound that didn't belong to morning but to someone entering uninvited. My heart thudded once hard, before I pushed myself out of bed and hurried down the hall. And there she was, Lily, standing in my kitchen as if she lived here, sunlight falling over her hair, her fingers drumming anxiously on the edge of the counter. She didn't even look at me when she said with a forced casualness that fooled no one, "You changed the locks." I stayed near the doorway, the cold tile kissing my bare feet. Yes, I said. I did. She finally turned around. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen from crying or not sleeping, I couldn't tell which. Why, Ava, why would you do that? I didn't bother answering. I simply held out my hand. Give me the old key, Lily. Her mouth twitched into something between annoyance and disbelief. Seriously, we're doing this now. Yes, I said. Now. She dug the key from her pocket, dropped it into my hand, and crossed her arms like she was the one who'd been wronged. You're being dramatic. I slipped the key into the drawer, turned back to her, and tried to keep my voice even. You don't get to come in whenever you want. That's crazy, she protested. We're sisters. The word sisters sounded suspiciously like ownership. She didn't give me time to respond before she reached into the large canvas tote she'd brought and pulled out a stack of papers secured with a rubber band. Okay, fine. Whatever. But we need to talk. I didn't sit. She took that as an invitation to keep going. It's the same thing I told you yesterday, she said, pushing the papers across the table. Connor didn't mean for any of this to happen. He trusted the wrong people. I picked up the stack and flipped through. The print quality was awful. Pages tilted, logos blurred, signatures mismatched. This is the same contract you showed me last night. No, she insisted. It's updated. It's still fake. She flinched as if the word itself cut her. It's not fake. Ava, why are you doing this? Why are you making this harder? Harder for whom I asked? You or me? She stared at the counter for a few seconds, her jaw tight, and then she lifted her face to mine. For all of us. If you don't help. What I said softly. What happens, Lily? She backed away from the question, her eyes shifting, her breath catching. That tiny hesitation told me more than anything she'd said so far. Did Connor tell you to say that, I asked? No, she said too fast. I'm saying it because it's true. The kettle clicked off behind me, breaking the silence for a moment. I poured hot water into my mug just to keep my hands busy. My pulse was starting to climb, a slow, familiar tremor running through me. I picked up a page that claimed to be a loan summary. The company's name was spelled wrong, twice. Lily. I said this is a scam. And a sloppy one. Her face flushed with anger. You're just being judgmental because you've always thought Connor wasn't good enough. My stomach twisted. This isn't about good enough. This is about you asking me for $300,000 with paperwork a teenager could fake. That's not fair, she shouted, slamming her hands on the table. Do you think I want this? Do you think I'm enjoying begging you for help? Then stop, I said quietly. For a moment she looked genuinely wounded. Then almost instantly the hurt hardened into something else, something sharper. Margaret put these ideas in your head, didn't she? Lily said. She always hated me. She always hated our family. She didn't put anything in my head, I replied. I asked her for help because what you're asking is dangerous. She's manipulating you, Lily hissed. She wants to turn you against your own sister. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Margaret has never manipulated me. But Lily pressed on, desperate. You always trust her more. Even when we were kids, you ran to her instead of me. She wasn't the one lying to me. She flinched again, her eyes darting to the window. When she looked back at me, her expression wasn't hurt anymore, it was calculating. I didn't want to tell you this, she said softly. But they're watching the house. A chill ran from my spine down to my fingertips. Who is... She swallowed hard. The people Connor owes money to. I didn't move. I barely breathed. They came to our place last night, Lily continued. They said if we didn't get them the money, they'd come after you first. The blood drained from my face. Why me? She hesitated too long. Lily, I said, my voice dropping. What did you do? She didn't answer. I stepped closer, searching her expression for any trace of the sister I once knew. Why would they come after me? Her lips trembled. Because Connor, he might have... She shook her head. He just thought you'd say yes. Okay, he thought you'd help. You always help. The words hit like a slap. He thought you'd help. Because you always help. The echo of my father's voice pulsed through my head, the same tone he used to trap my mother for years. She'll insist on helping. She'll do the right thing. She knows her place. It was suddenly hard to breathe. I grabbed my phone and dialed Margaret. Lily tried to snatch it from me, but I stepped away. Margaret picked up on the second ring. Ava. They came to Lily's house, I said. She's saying they're watching mine too. Are you with her? Yes. Put me on speaker. When I did, Margaret's tone sharpened. Lily, listen very carefully. You and Connor have involved Ava in a federal crime. If you're telling the truth about being followed, you're all in danger. Ava needs to leave. Today. Leave, Lily gasped. What? No, she can't just abandon me. She doesn't owe you anything, Margaret replied. Lily's face twisted in fury. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know our family. I know enough, Margaret shot back. I know Ava has been your safety net for years. I know you've used her sense of responsibility against her. And I know she didn't put her name on any of those loans, which means someone else did. That's identity fraud. Lily froze. Actually froze. Margaret continued, her voice steady and unshakable. Ava, you need to pack essentials. Do not stay there tonight. Lily jumped up, shaking. No, she can't go. If she leaves, I'm dead, do you hear me? I looked at her closely, then really looked and saw something I hadn't let myself see. Before, she wasn't just panicked, she was hiding something. What aren't you telling me? I asked. Her shoulders dropped. Her jaw trembled. I didn't know what Connor was doing, she whispered. Not in the beginning. But later. I couldn't stop him. And I didn't want to lose him. And he said if I kept helping, everything would work out. Helping how she wouldn't meet my eyes. How Lily. Her breath hitched. He needed some of your documents. Just to prove identity. Just for paperwork. My heart stopped. What documents? She closed her eyes, tears spilling over. Your passport photo. Your signature. A copy of your driver's license. I took pictures from your files last Thanksgiving when you asked me to get the recipe book from your desk. I staggered back, gripping the counter for balance. You used me, I said. The words scraped my throat raw. You used me to protect him. No, she cried. Ava, please, I didn't think it would go this far. I thought that I'd fix it, I whispered. That I'd pay. That I'd silently crawl behind you like I always have. She collapsed into the nearest chair, sobbing. I didn't know what else to do. The room didn't feel like my kitchen anymore. It felt like a trap. I walked to the window. A black sedan was parked half a block down, engine running. I didn't need Margaret to tell me what that meant. I turned back to Lily, who was staring at me with wide, terrified eyes. Ava, please, don't leave me alone. I wanted to tell her I wouldn't. I wanted to tell her I cared, that she was my sister, that we'd figure it out together like we should have from the start. But then I remembered the blurry contract with my forged signature, the fake loan under my name, the car watching my house, the childhood roles forced on us by a father who broke our mother and trained us to clean up the pieces. I took a slow breath. I need time to think. She shook her head violently. There is no time. They want their money today. Ava, if you walk out that door, her voice cracked into a scream. If you don't help us, they'll hurt him. That was the moment I realized she wasn't scared for herself. She was scared for Connor, the man who put us both in danger, the man she chose over me. And suddenly everything inside me went very, very still. I'm sorry, Lily, I said softly, but I'm done being anyone's shield. She stared at me, stunned. I reached for my phone, my bag, my jacket. Ava, she whispered, please don't do this. I walked to the door. My hand paused on the knob just long enough to hear her say the words she saved. For last, the words meant to shatter me. You're just like Mom, always running, always weak. I didn't turn around, not even as my chest burned. because for the first time in my life, I wasn't the weak one. I stepped outside, closed the door behind me, and let the sunlight hit my face. I wasn't running. I was finally choosing myself. I didn't make it past the end of the driveway before my phone buzzed again, vibrating sharply against my palm. A blocked number. I let it ring until it stopped, but as soon as it did, another call came. Then a third. By the fourth, my chest felt tight enough to split open. I silenced the phone and shoved it into my bag, forcing myself to keep walking. I needed to breathe. I needed to think. I needed to get away before the walls closed in on me the way they had on my mother. The air felt strange, heavy, like the sky was watching. My feet carried me back toward the house, almost on instinct, but I didn't go inside. Instead, I walked around to the mailbox. A thin white envelope sat wedged deep inside the flap, sealed crookedly, as if dropped in by someone in a hurry. There was no return address, only my name scrawled across the front, in handwriting I didn't recognize. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Inside a single sheet of paper, 3 words in thick black marker: "Pay it," or "pay the price." My pulse roared in my ears. I folded the note with stiff fingers, slipped it into my back pocket, and turned a slow circle, scanning the street. The sedan from earlier was gone. A dog barked 2 houses down. A jogger moved past on the other side of the street, oblivious. Everything looked normal, completely normal. And yet nothing felt normal. I pulled out my phone and dialed the only person who could help. Margaret answered on the first ring. "Talk to me." "They left a note," I whispered. "In the mailbox. Anonymous. What does it say, pay it or pay the price?" There was a short, razor-sharp silence. "Ava, listen carefully. Get inside the house, lock the doors, and stay away from windows. I'm calling the bank now. Text me a picture of the note." I sent it while pacing the living room, feeling my breath shorten with every step. My hands were shaky, my stomach twisted, my mind spinning in circles. This wasn't panic anymore, it was survival instinct. Margaret called back 2 minutes later. "Ava, you need to sit down." I obeyed her voice before I even understood the words. "Your accounts show suspicious activity. Multiple attempts to log in this week. 2 small withdrawals from a savings account you barely use." My heart dropped. "What, you're a target," she said quietly. "Not by accident, Ava. Someone's been prepping this for months. My guess Connor used more than just your passport photo. Lily may not know the full extent, but she's involved." I closed my eyes and gripped the edge of the kitchen table. "What do I do?" "You leave," she said. "Today, before they escalate. But no buts. Pack essentials. You're coming to Florida. I have contacts there. You'll stay under the radar while we sort this out." I felt something inside me crack, not from fear, but from recognition. For the first time in my life, someone wasn't asking me to sacrifice myself. Someone was telling me to run for my own sake. "I'll go," I breathed. "Good. I'm booking your flight. Check your email in 10 minutes. I hung up and let myself stand still for a moment in the center of my home. The home I'd built alone, the home Lily entered without knocking, the home someone had been watching. I walked to the stairs and climbed them slowly, each step an echo of some earlier version of myself, the obedient daughter, the forgiving sister, the woman who always made room for other people's chaos. Not anymore. Inside my bedroom, I pulled an old suitcase from the closet. Dust clung to the handle. I'd used this suitcase only twice in 10 years, once for a work conference, once for a funeral. Somehow that felt symbolic. I opened drawers and chose what mattered: 3 sets of clothes, toiletries, prescription bottles, my passport, the box of documents I'd kept hidden from Lily for years. At the bottom of that drawer, beneath old scarves, I found a small wooden box with tarnished brass corners. My mother's handwriting was inside the lid: for Ava, when you need it most. Inside were carefully folded bills, hundreds that she must have saved in secret. Her quiet rebellion against the man who controlled everything. I sat on the edge of the bed and let the weight of her love settle into my chest. She hadn't run in time. She hadn't saved herself. But she wanted me to. I placed the box gently into my suitcase. As I zipped up the bag, a framed photo toppled from my nightstand. The glass didn't break, but the frame cracked diagonally. A picture of Lily and me at ages 10 and 6, both smiling, both unaware of the years ahead. I lifted it, held it in my hands for a long moment, then set it aside. Some things needed to stay behind. The house felt smaller as I walked downstairs, like the walls were folding inward. Every noise, the hum of the refrigerator, the tick of the clock, the creak of the floor felt amplified, like the house itself knew I was leaving it for good. My phone buzzed again. This time a text from Lily. "Ava, please pick up, I'm scared." Then another. "They came back last night. Connor's not talking to me. Please don't leave me alone in this. Then they said your name, Ava. I'm begging you. Please don't abandon me." I stared at the messages until the words blurred. For most of my life, Lily's fear had been the chain around my ankle. She cried, and I came running. She panicked, and I steadied her. She broke something, and I fixed it. But now she wasn't asking me to save her life. She was asking me to save his. I turned my phone upside down and let the screen go black. The doorbell rang, twice, 3 times, fast, urgent. My breath froze in my throat. I crept to the peephole and looked out. No one. A cold chill crawled up my spine. I stepped back from the door, fear curling its fingers around my ribs. My phone buzzed again on the table, Margaret calling. I answered in a whisper. Someone rang the door and disappeared. "Don't open it," she said immediately. "Ava, pack your things right now. I've got your flight at 3 p.m. I'll send you the digital boarding pass." "Okay, I'm calling the bank again." "And Ava," her voice softened, "you're doing the right thing. Leaving isn't weakness." I closed my eyes, remembering Lily's accusation. "You're just like Mom. Always running. Always weak." Maybe Mom had been running. Maybe she'd been desperate. But maybe, just maybe, she'd been right. I ended the call, grabbed my suitcase, and headed for the back door instead of the front. I didn't trust the street. I didn't trust the quiet. I didn't trust the house that suddenly felt watched. The backyard was still. My roses swayed softly in the breeze, petals trembling. I had planted them to honor my mother, and now they felt like they were whispering something to me. Go. Go now. I moved quickly through the gate and into the alley, pulling my suitcase behind me. Each step felt like peeling off a layer of the old life. Fear clung to me, but a strange clarity did too. It felt like stepping out of a cage I hadn't realized was locked. At the end of the alley, I paused before stepping onto the sidewalk. A black car sat half a block down. Again, engine idling. My throat tightened. I pulled my hood up, lowered my head, and crossed the street. The car didn't move at first. Then slowly it rolled forward. Just a few feet, just enough to let me know I wasn't imagining any of this. I didn't run. Running would only show fear. Instead, I turned into a hotel parking lot and walked straight through to the other side, watching the reflection of the car in the lobby window. It slowed, paused, then drove on. Margaret was right. They were watching. The bus stop wasn't far. I headed there, pulling my suitcase close, and checked my email. Margaret had sent the ticket along with a message: "Do not go home again. Go straight to the airport. Call me from the gate." I typed back one word: "Okay." The bus arrived within minutes. I climbed aboard, took a seat in the back, and tried to steady my breathing. The city blurred past the window, familiar streets turning into something distant, like I was already halfway gone. Halfway free. Halfway new. As the bus neared the airport, my phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number: "You can run, Ava, but we know how to find you." My chest tightened, but I didn't turn around. I didn't look back at the city shrinking behind me. I didn't let the fear swallow the air in my lungs. Instead, I grabbed my suitcase, stepped off the bus, and walked toward the sliding glass doors of the airport as they opened automatically in front of me, gliding apart like a curtain revealing the next act of my life. And as I stepped through, I told myself the truth I had been too afraid to believe for years. Leaving isn't running. Leaving is choosing myself. and I wasn't about to stop now. I felt the plane's wheels lift from the runway, the vibration in my chest fading into a hum as the city grew smaller beneath the clouds. For the first time in what felt like years, no one could reach me. No doorbell, no blocked calls, no shadows moving outside my window, just sky wide untouched, indifferent to the chaos I was leaving behind. But freedom didn't come softly. It arrived in waves, each one crashing with everything I'd been ignoring. My hands shook as I tucked my phone into airplane mode and leaned back against the seat. The woman beside me, a grandmotherly type with soft gray curls, glanced over gently. "First time flying." "First time leaving," I murmured. She nodded like she understood something deeper without needing to ask. "Good for you," she said. "Some people go their whole lives without ever choosing themselves." Her words hit harder than she knew. The plane climbed higher city, turning to country, then ocean-long stretches of blue that seemed to swallow every thought. I tried to breathe. I tried to let go. I tried not to replay the last 24 hours in a loop, but the image of that black car lingered behind my eyelids. When the announcement came that we could turn on our devices, my screen lit up with notifications the moment airplane mode dropped. Not calls, just messages. "Lily Ava, please talk to me. Lily Connor's furious. He thinks you're planning something. He's losing it. Lily, please don't leave me alone, please." Then, unknown, number we warned you. My throat tightened. The woman next to me must have noticed the color drain from my face. "You okay, sweetheart?" I nodded, even though it wasn't true, and put the phone face down. I forced myself to stare out the window until the plane finally dipped toward the Florida coastline palm trees, shrinking beneath us as we descended toward a life I hadn't planned but desperately needed. When I stepped into the terminal, the air hit me like entering another world, warm, dense, smelling faintly of sunscreen and ocean salt. Margaret had arranged everything down to the smallest detail: a pickup at the curb, a temporary apartment. She'd prepaid a burner phone waiting in the glove box of the car that would take me to my hideaway. The driver held a sign with my initials, not my full name. Smart. He didn't speak much, older mankind eyes, patient silence. I sank into the back seat and let the unfamiliar city blur into streaks of green and gold. A new beginning should have felt exhilarating. Instead, it felt like stepping into the aftermath of a storm, not knowing where the next gust might come from. My temporary apartment wasn't luxurious, but it was clean, bright, and quiet. I dropped my suitcase beside the bed, sat down, and finally allowed myself to exhale. Not cry, not crumble, just breathe. Minutes later, my burner phone lit up. "Margaret." "Are you inside?" she asked. "Yes." "Good. Lock the door." I did. The deadbolt clicked into place. "Okay," she continued, her voice shifting into the calm, tactical tone I'd heard her use only in the worst moments of my life. "I spoke to Detective Rivera in New Jersey. He's agreed to meet tomorrow morning. We're going to file an identity theft and coercion report. You'll be safe here in the meantime." "Do you really think they'll come after me?" My voice cracked. "Ava, you were never the real target. You were leverage. That's why you need to protect yourself and your assets before they can touch anything." "What about Lily? I'll handle her," she said quietly. "You focus on staying invisible." Invisible. Something about that word sliced through me more than it should have. I'd been invisible all my life, tucked into corners, smoothing other people's messes, apologizing for taking up space. Now here I was again, stepping into a life built on shadows and caution. But this time, invisibility wasn't surrender. It was strategy. After the call ended, I walked onto the small balcony. The sky had turned violet, the sea reflecting streaks of copper and blue. For a moment I stood there, letting the breeze lift my hair, letting the strangeness of this new life wash over me. My mother would have loved this view. My throat tightened. I whispered into the wind, "I'm trying, Mom." The burner phone buzzed again. A text. Unknown. "You think Florida will keep you safe?" My heart stopped. Then another. "You don't get to run. Not from us." My hands shook as I grabbed the phone and hit call on Margaret's number. She answered immediately. What happened? They texted me. Again. Margaret cursed softly under her breath. Did they mention your location? No. Good. That means they're guessing, not tracking. Ava, listen to me. They are trying to break you mentally because they lost physical access. Block the number. I'll trace it. I blocked it. But blocking didn't erase the fear. Try to rest, she urged. Tomorrow we take the first real step towards stopping this. I hung up and leaned my forehead against the cool balcony door glass. The fear didn't fade, but something else rose behind it, a slow-burning anger that tasted bitter and sharp. They thought they owned my fear. Thought it made me predictable. Thought it kept me obedient. They didn't understand that fear is what finally pushed my mother to hide money for me. Fear is what pushed me to change the locks. Fear is what pushed me to get on that plane. Fear wasn't weakness. Fear was momentum. I turned back into the apartment, changed into soft clothes, and crawled beneath the unfamiliar blankets. Sleep came in fragments, long stretches of darkness interrupted by flashes of memory, Lily sobbing on my kitchen floor, Connor's cold voice, my father's shadow in every corner of my childhood home. When I woke the next morning, sunlight poured through the sheer curtains like it had been waiting for me. I dressed quickly, met Margaret downstairs, and climbed into her rental car. She looked exhausted, but determined. Ready? No, I admitted. But I'm going anyway. At the police station, Detective Rivera ushered us into a small room that smelled of old coffee and disinfectant. He had kind eyes and a voice that made people tell the truth without realizing it. Start from the beginning, he said. So I did. I told him about Lily's begging the forged documents, the threatening note, the black car, the fraudulent loans. I told him about our father's financial control, the way Lily had learned to weaponize fear, and how Connor had escalated everything into something criminal. Rivera listened without interrupting his pen moving steadily across the report. When I finished, he leaned back. Ms. Thorne, based on what you've told me, you're dealing with coercive extortion, identity theft, and what looks like a scheme that crosses state lines, Federal Margaret asked. Highly likely. My stomach churned. He continued, We'll open an investigation immediately. You did the right thing leaving. Staying could have put you in direct danger. He asked for the fake contract. I handed it over. Even he raised an eyebrow at how poorly made it was. This is amateur work, he muttered. Then, sometimes that makes people more dangerous, not less. Desperate criminals are unpredictable. I swallowed hard. After signing the statement, I followed Margaret out to the sunlight again. She placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. We're going to beat them at their own game, she said, piece by piece. I nodded, though part of me still felt like a frightened girl, hiding beneath a table waiting for the shouting to stop. We drove to a quiet cafe near the beach. Margaret ordered coffee for both of us. Mine sat untouched as she outlined the plan. We're freezing your accounts today. New passwords, new bank, new email. Every document you own gets moved into a secure legal vault. After that, we'll contact a financial crimes attorney. And Lily, I whispered. Her expression softened. You can't save people who don't want saving. A painful truth, but a necessary one. We spent hours going through every potential vulnerability, old paperwork, shared addresses, saved information, and cloud accounts, anything Lily could have accessed. The more we uncovered, the more it became clear Connor hadn't acted alone. He'd planned this with precision, and Lily, whether blind or willfully ignorant, had given him the keys. By late afternoon, exhaustion weighed on every part of me. My chest felt tight, my thoughts scattered. Margaret walked me back to the apartment. Rest, she said gently. You have a safe home now. No one knows you're here. Tomorrow we build the next step. I nodded and closed the door behind me. The apartment hummed in quiet stillness, warm light pooling along the wooden floor. I walked to the balcony again, watching the waves crash in soft, steady rhythms against the sand. Somewhere hundreds of miles away, my old life was burning down. Somewhere Lily was probably still calling, crying, pleading, maybe even blaming. Somewhere Connor was pacing, irritated, angry, plotting. And here I was, standing alone in the golden glow of a Florida sunset, safe for the first time in my life. Not because someone sheltered me. Not because someone demanded my obedience. Not because someone needed rescuing, but because I chose to protect myself. My mother would have been proud. As the sun dipped lower, I whispered into the wind, "I'm not coming back." For the first time, the words sounded like freedom instead of guilt. The knock came just after sunrise, soft, polite, but too deliberate to be a neighbor or a delivery. I froze halfway through pouring coffee, the stream hitting the inside of the mug like a small waterfall. No one here knew me. No one should know I was even in Florida. I set the mug down quietly and moved toward the door. The knock came again, firmer this time. My pulse hammered in my ears as I peered through the peephole. A woman stood there. Blonde hair pulled back neatly, navy blazer, a badge visible at her hip. Her expression was steady, calm, not demanding yet undeniably official. "Ms. Ava Thorne," she called through the door. My breath caught. How did anyone find me? I unlocked the door but kept the chain latched. "Who are you?" She lifted her badge. "Detective Olivia Barnes, Miami-Dade Police Department. I need to speak with you. It's urgent." Fear slid cold through me. "How did you know where I am?" "Your friend Margaret Stone contacted our department. She said you might be in danger." The detective took a small step back, giving me space instead of crowding the doorway. "I'm here to help," she added. I removed the chain and let her in. She stepped inside and scanned the apartment, not suspiciously but protectively, like she was checking for exits, blind spots, threats. "Has anyone followed you today?" she asked. "No. Any cars outside when you woke up? I didn't look." She moved to the balcony and glanced down at the parking lot. Only 2 cars and a man walking his dog. Satisfied, she returned to me. "Ava, I'm here because New Jersey contacted us. They received your identity theft report. Based on recent findings, your case may cross into federal jurisdiction." My knees weakened. Federal, yes. She sat at the small dining table and gestured for me to sit too. "Tell me everything." From the beginning. I did. All of it. Lily's begging. Connor's forged documents, the black sedan, the mailbox threat, the texts, the calls, my escape, the plane, My voice shook more than once, but Detective Barnes didn't rush me. She listened with an intensity that made me feel seen for the first time in a long time. When I finished, she exhaled slowly. "You did the right thing leaving. That decision may have saved your life." A chill ran down my arms. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and frowned. "It's about your sister." My breath hitched. "What about Lily?" "She went to the police last night," Barnes said. "She reported that Connor had become unpredictable." The room tilted slightly. Unpredictable how he broke a lamp. Then a phone. He locked himself in a room and screamed at someone on speakerphone. "She claims she heard your name multiple times." My stomach twisted painfully. She also reported Barnes continued that Connor was in contact with men he owes money to, men with criminal records. She claims he told them you'd pay the $300,000 as soon as someone talked sense into you. My blood ran cold. Barnes leaned forward. "Ava, he may have hired someone." My lips parted. "To what scare me possibly, or worse. It depends on how desperate he is." She let that sink in, then added, "And people who are cornered tend to be desperate." I swallowed, throat dry. "What happens now? We're filing for a protective order on your behalf. We're also flagging your name at airports, banks, government offices. If anyone tries to use your identity anywhere in the country, it'll alert us." "What about Lily?" My voice cracked without permission. "She's cooperating," Barnes said gently. "But she's also scared. And if she's telling the truth, Connor is unraveling fast." I pressed a hand to my forehead. The walls felt tighter than they should. The room felt warmer than it was. "He knows I left," I whispered. Yes. He knows I won't pay. Yes. He knows I have something to lose. Barnes met my eyes steady and unwavering. But what he doesn't know is that you're not alone anymore. And you're not an easy target. A tremor rippled down my spine. The detective handed me a printed form. This is your official statement. Once you sign, federal agents can step in if necessary. I signed shakily. When Barnes left, I locked the door behind her and slumped into a chair. The coffee in my mug had gone cold. The sunlight through the window felt harsh, accusing, like I'd dragged my chaos across state lines and stained this new life before it even began. The burner phone buzzed. Margaret. Did she get there were her first words? She just left. Good. Ava, we need to talk. Something's come up. My heart plummeted. What? She hesitated, a rare, unnerving thing for Margaret. Connor isn't home. He left sometime during the night, with a suitcase. I gripped the phone tighter. Where is he? No one knows. The floor felt unsteady beneath my feet. He could be heading toward you, she added quietly. Or toward the men he owes money to. Either way, he's not thinking clearly. Fear coiled at the base of my spine like a living thing. What about Lily? She's staying with a neighbor for now. She's terrified. She helped him, I whispered. Yes, Margaret said. But she also knows she crossed a line she can't undo. She's unraveling too. The walls of the apartment pressed closer. I felt small, fragile, exposed. Margaret, my voice shook. Am I safe here? For now, she answered. Detective Barnes will increase patrols. But Ava, listened to me carefully. This is the moment where you decide what happens next. You can stay frozen, or you can do what your mother never got the chance to do. I closed my eyes. What's that take control? That word pulsed in my chest. Control. I barely remembered what it felt like. After the call, I stepped onto the balcony again. The ocean shimmered in the distance, steady and vast. A world big enough to hold pain, fear, hope, and transformation all at once. I inhaled the salt air and let it fill my lungs. Then I grabbed my laptop. I went through every account I had, email, bank apps, cloud storage, social media. I changed passwords. I froze credit lines. I removed saved cards. Every click, every confirmation, every security question answered felt like stitching together a new version of myself, one that refused to be prey. An hour later, my hands stopped trembling. My spine straightened, my breath deepened. For the first time in years, maybe decades, I felt present inside my own skin. Then the burner phone rang. Not buzzed, rang, an unknown number. I answered before fear could stop me. A deep male voice growled, "Little Ava. Running never works." My blood iced. "You think people won't find you," the voice continued. "You think you're safe there. You think we don't have friends down south." My heartbeat thundered in my ears. "You're going to pay what Connor owes," he said, "or we'll take something worth more than money." My breath died in my chest. "Who are you?" I managed. But the line had already gone dead. I lowered the phone and stared at it in shaking silence. Then tap, tap. A soft knock against the balcony railing. I spun around, heart in my throat. No one was there, just the wind pushing a loose branch of the palm tree against the metal. But the fear had already rooted itself deep. I closed the balcony door, drew the curtains, and sat on the edge of the bed. I wasn't crying, not shaking, not frozen. I was deciding. Staying hidden wasn't enough. Running wasn't enough. Waiting wasn't enough. If Connor was unraveling, if strangers were threatening me across state lines, if Lily had opened the door to something far bigger than she understood, then I needed more than distance. I needed power. I needed proof. I needed allies who understood how criminals like Connor thought. Margaret had been right. This was the moment the story shifted. Not into fear, into strategy, into a woman who refused to disappear quietly. I stood, wiped my palms against my jeans, and whispered to the empty room, "I'm not done. Not by a long shot." The ocean outside roared its agreement, steady and defiant. I was no longer running. I was preparing. The morning after the threatening call, I woke to the sound of waves breaking against the shoreline, a rhythm so calm it felt like an insult to the terror still lodged beneath my ribs. For a moment, I didn't remember where I was. Then the low hum of the ceiling fan, the soft Florida light leaking through the blinds, and the scent of ocean air reminded me I was far from home, far from Lily, far from Connor, far from everything familiar. And yet the fear had followed me. I sat up, slowly rubbing my hands over my face. My dream had been vivid, someone knocking at the door, then forcing their way inside. I'd woken with my heart pounding so loudly I thought it might shake the walls. I pushed myself to the kitchen and made coffee. The bitterness grounded me. As I held the warm mug, the burner phone buzzed on the counter. "Margaret," I answered immediately. "Good morning." "You sound terrible," she said. "Did you sleep at all?" "Not really," I figured. Papers rustled faintly on her side. "I've got good news and bad news. Which first bad?" Connor bought a ticket. My grip on the mug tightened. A ticket to where? We don't know yet. He used cash. But it was a bus terminal, not an airport. My chest tightened. "Heading south. That's our guess," she said. "But the police are watching the main routes." "Only the main ones," Margaret said gently. "The police aren't omnipotent. They're doing what they can. Your job is to keep yourself hidden and not do anything stupid." Understood, I wanted to say yes. Easy, obvious. But something had shifted in me since yesterday. Hiding wasn't enough anymore. "I hear you," I said instead. She sighed. She knew me too well. "What's the good news?" I asked. "You have an appointment today with a financial crimes attorney. Rivera arranged it. Her name is Elena Morales. She's sharp. She eats extortion cases for breakfast." "Okay," I said. "What time? 1 p.m. I'll text you the address." "Thank you." "And Ava?" "Yes." If something doesn't feel right, trust that feeling. I'm serious. I will. After we hung up, I showered, dressed, and stood by the balcony door for a long moment. The fear was still in me. But so was something else. Resolve. By noon, I was driving toward the attorney's office in downtown Miami, my hands tense on the steering wheel. The city stretched out before me, vibrant, chaotic, alive. A stark contrast to the suffocating quiet of my house back in New Jersey. Elena's office was on the 7th floor of a glass building overlooking the bay. I stepped into a waiting room filled with legal textbooks, leather chairs, and framed newspaper clippings of her biggest wins. The receptionist smiled. "Ms. Thorne." "She'll see you now." Elena Morales looked younger than I expected, mid-40s perhaps, with dark hair pulled into a tight bun and eyes that missed nothing. She shook my hand firmly. "I've read the preliminary report," she said, closing the door behind us. "You've been through hell. That's one way to put it. Let's get to work." She gestured for me to sit. For the next hour, I told her everything. Again. Every detail, every threat, every forged document. She listened without interrupting, but her pen moved rapidly. When I finished, she leaned back, eyes sharp. "Ava, what you're dealing with isn't just extortion or family manipulation. This is organized financial crime. Connor may not have started this, but he's in deep now." My pulse quickened. Meaning the men he owes money to don't care about him. They care about whoever they think can pay. You. She tapped her pen on the desk. "This is bigger than a relationship gone toxic. This is federal." I nodded slowly. Detective Rivera said something similar. He was right. Elena folded her hands. "But you have something that changes everything. What documentation, threats, and motive? You left before they could trap you further." She leaned forward. "Ava, people in your position don't usually get away in time. You did." Her words hit like a jolt. "So what now? Now we build a case airtight enough to bury Connor and whoever he's aligned with." But to do that, she paused. "You need to understand something. What you're not just a witness, you're a target." Her gaze hardened. "And targets don't survive by being passive." Something in me tightened. "What do you mean by passive?" "I mean hiding isn't enough. You need to take proactive steps to protect yourself legally and financially. Today. I nodded. Tell me what to do. Elena outlined everything: freeze all remaining credit lines. Create a new digital identity footprint. Move my assets into a secure trust. Establish legal representation in 2 states. Register my stolen documents with the Federal Trade Commission. Set a fraud alert on every major credit bureau. It was overwhelming, but it was also empowering. For the first time, I felt like I wasn't just reacting, I was acting. By the time we finished, my head was spinning, but my spine felt straighter. When I walked out of Elena's office, the sun was high and blinding. I stepped onto the sidewalk, breathing in the hot Miami air, and for a moment I felt almost strong. Then my burner phone buzzed. Unknown number. I froze. 2 words flashed on the screen. We see you. The world tilted slightly. I spun around, scanning the street. Cars, people, a cyclist weaving through traffic. Nothing out of the ordinary. But the message clenched around my lungs like a fist. I backed against the building, trying to steady my breathing. Then I hit call on the number. It rang once, twice, then clicked. No words, just breathing slow, heavy, deliberate. My skin crawled. Who is this? I whispered. The breathing continued. Wet, slow, almost amused. If you're trying to scare me, I said, forcing steel into my voice, it won't work. A low chuckle rumbled through the receiver. Then a whisper, Florida won't save you. The line went dead. My hand shook violently as I lowered the phone. A woman walking past glanced at me curiously. I stepped away from the street, heart racing. I called Margaret immediately. She answered mid-breath. Ava, are you okay? Someone texted me, then called. They said they can see me. Margaret cursed. Get somewhere public. Right now. I'm outside Elena's office. Go into a lobby cafe bookstore, anything crowded. I'm calling Barnes. I hurried across the street to a busy cafe and slipped inside, choosing a table near the window but far from the door. I sat with my back to the wall, scanning every face. A man in a baseball cap reading a newspaper. 2 women chatting loudly. A teenager scrolling on her phone. No one suspicious. But that didn't mean no one dangerous. Minutes later, Detective Barnes called. Are you safe for now? Did you see anyone follow you? No. Good. Keep it that way. I'm extending the patrol request to your block. A patrol, I whispered. Outside my building. Yes. And Ava. Her voice softened. You're stronger than you think. I've seen victims freeze in fear. You're not freezing, you're fighting. But something inside me said fighting wasn't enough, not yet. I needed to know what they knew, who they were, why they wanted me so badly, and how far they were willing to go. When we ended the call, I ordered tea I didn't want and waited until my hands stopped shaking. Then I walked out into the bright afternoon and headed for my car. As I reached the driver's side door, I noticed something tucked under the windshield wiper, a folded piece of paper. My stomach dropped. Hands trembling, I pulled it free. 4 words in the same blocky handwriting as the mailbox note, next time we won't miss. The parking lot spun around me, heat shimmering from the asphalt. Someone had been here. Close. Close enough to walk up to my car. Close enough to leave a message inches from my face. I closed my eyes, breath unsteady. Then I whispered the only truth that mattered now. This ends with me. Not running, not hiding, not surrendering. For the first time in my life, I wasn't going to be the woman waiting for the storm to pass. I was going to be the one who walked into it, prepared, armed, and unwilling to be prey a moment longer. I didn't go straight home after finding the note on my windshield. Instead, I drove toward the beach, the long stretch of road shimmering in the late afternoon heat, my hands tight around the wheel. Fear sat beside me like a second passenger, heavy and unblinking, but beneath it something stronger pulsed: anger, cold, razor-edged anger at being hunted, manipulated, pushed into corners my whole life. I pulled into a public parking lot, grabbed my bag, and headed toward the water. The beach was scattered with people, families, tourists, joggers, and their presence gave me a thin sense of safety. I found an empty bench sat and let the roar of the waves steady my breathing. My burner phone buzzed. "Margaret." "Safe?" she asked without greeting. "I'm at the beach. Crowded area." "Good." Barnes told me about the windshield note. "You need to stay visible to the public for the next few hours. I'm coming tonight." A swell of relief washed through me. "Thank you." "You won't be alone in this," she said, her voice firm. "Not again." The line went quiet for a beat. Then Margaret inhaled sharply. "Ava." Lily showed up at my office, my breath caught. Why she was crying, shaking. She said Connor's gone off the rails completely. He smashed the living room. He threatened some guy on the phone shouting your name again and again. My stomach twisted painfully. Did she say where he is, to her? She claims she doesn't know. And honestly, I believe her this time. I wasn't sure that made anything better. "What did she want?" I asked. "She wants forgiveness," Margaret said. "She wants you to call her. She wants to explain. As if an explanation could undo what she'd done. "She broke into my documents," I whispered. "She handed my life to him." "I know," Margaret said gently. "And she's realizing the consequences now." Another long pause. "Ava," she continued, "I think Lily is genuinely afraid for her life." My jaw clenched. She should be. But that doesn't erase what she did to me. "No," Margaret said. And I could hear the sadness in her voice for the sister I once had and for the sister I didn't anymore. "It doesn't." I hung up and stayed on that bench until the sun dipped low in the sky. Pelicans skimmed the water boats, drifted lazily across the horizon, and the warm breeze lifted strands of my hair. It should have been peaceful. But all I could think about was the note, and the phone call. And the whisper, "Florida won't save you." By the time I drove back to the apartment complex, twilight was settling in. The patrol car Detective Barnes had arranged was parked across the street, its presence a quiet reassurance. I climbed the stairs quickly, unlocking the apartment door and slipping inside. The moment I closed the door behind me, the tension in my spine snapped tight again. I wasn't alone. I didn't hear anything. Nothing moved. But instinct had a way of speaking before logic. I set my bag down silently and moved toward the kitchen. The room was dim except for the thin wash of sunset spilling across the tile floor. Then my phone buzzed on the counter. A text. From unknown. "We're not far." My lungs stilled. I backed slowly toward the bedroom, grabbed the pepper spray Margaret insisted I carry, and returned to the living room. My vision sharpened, my breathing shallow. I checked every closet, every corner, every shadow. No one. The apartment was empty. And then it hit me they didn't have to be inside to terrify me. Fear was the weapon. Fear was the control. I sat on the couch, legs trembling, and leaned forward with my head in my hands. I didn't cry. I just breathed until the world stopped spinning. A knock sounded at the door, a soft, gentle one. I jumped hard in my throat. "It's me," Margaret's voice called. "Open up." Relief nearly buckled my knees. I unlatched the door and let her in. She carried 2 bags, one with files, one with something warm and smelling like takeout. "You look pale," she said, locking the door behind her. "Sit. I'm fine." "You're not," she said. "And that's okay." She placed the takeout bag on the table and pulled out 2 containers. I recognized the scent ginger chicken from a Thai restaurant down the block. Comfort food, calming. But I couldn't eat. My stomach was too tight. "What happened?" Margaret asked. I showed her the text. Her jaw tightened. "Cowards. What do they want?" I whispered. "You," she said simply. "Not because of who you are, because of what you represent, a quick way out for Connor, a financial lifeline, a tool. They don't see you as a person, Ava. They see you as leverage." The words hit like a bruise. Not because they were new, but because they were familiar. "That's how my father saw my mother," I said softly. Margaret nodded. "And that's how Lily sees you. That's how Connor sees you. But it's not who you are. Then who am I?" The question broke out of me before I could stop it. Margaret didn't hesitate. Someone who survived what would break most people. Someone who left before the noose tightened. Someone who's scared but still standing. Her eyes softened. Someone who's finally rewriting her story. I swallowed hard. Margaret reached into her bag and pulled out a manila folder. We need to talk about the next steps. I sat straighter. What steps? She opened the folder. Inside were printed screenshots, bank statements, emails forged, signatures, social media messages between Connor and two names I didn't recognize. What is this evidence? She said. Elena sent everything she found today. Ava, they didn't stop with one loan. They tried to open more under your name. They were planning to drain every account you had. A bitter, metallic taste filled my mouth. Would it have worked? Yes, she said bluntly. If you hadn't left, they would have succeeded within a week. A week. 7 days. That's how close I'd come to losing everything. I stared at the folder until the words blurred. I don't want to run anymore, I whispered. Good, Margaret said, because we're not running, we're fighting. I lifted my head. This is where things turn, she continued. Detective Barnes and Elena believe they can move forward with charges. But we still need one thing. My stomach tightened. What proof of coercion? Proof of intent? Proof that Connor planned to use you as collateral? I frowned. How do we get that? Margaret hesitated. Lily. The name hung in the air like a weight. No, I said immediately. I can't, Ava. I can't trust her. I'm not asking you to trust her, Margaret said gently. I'm asking you to let her talk. She knows the truth, and right now she needs protection more than loyalty to Connor. I paced the living room. She betrayed me. She also knows she crossed a line she can't uncross, Margaret said. And you know, Lily, she's terrified. Terrified people talk, and sometimes they tell the truth. I stopped pacing. And if she's willing to cooperate, Margaret continued, we can end this whole operation before Connor ever reaches Florida. Something shifted inside me, not forgiveness, not even sympathy, but clarity. Lily was the weak point, not the enemy, not the ally, the hinge. If she talked, everything changed. If she didn't, I didn't want to think about that. Margaret took out her phone. She's been texting me all day, begging to speak with you. We don't have to meet her in person. We can call her, record it, use it. My pulse roared in my ears. Ava Margaret said softly, this isn't about saving her. It's about saving you. I closed my eyes. When I opened them, I nodded once. Call her. Margaret dialed. It rang once, twice. Then Lily's shaky voice filled the room. Margaret, is she with you? Margaret put the call on speaker. I took a breath that felt like stepping off a cliff. I'm here, I said. A sob burst through the speaker. Ava, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know what he was doing. I didn't know it would get this bad. I didn't mean Lily, I said quietly. Tell me everything. And as she began broken, frightened, unraveling, I understood something. This wasn't the end. This was the beginning of the war. Lily's first words dissolved into incoherent sobs, the kind that didn't sound theatrical or manipulative, just raw and terrified. But fear had always been her most convincing mask, so I forced myself not to react. I sat stiffly on the couch, hands clasped, listening to her gasping breaths through the speakerphone, as Margaret watched me carefully, waiting to see if I'd break. I didn't. Lily, I said slowly, I need you to breathe. Her sobbing hitched, slowed slightly. Ava, I didn't know who else to call. I don't know what to do. I'm scared. I'm so scared. I stared at the wall, my voice steady. Then start talking. She inhaled shakily, then poured out her words in frantic bursts. Connor's lost it. He's not the same Ava. He keeps yelling, smashing things. Yesterday he threw a chair at the wall, missed me by an inch. I thought he was going to kill me. Where is he now? Margaret asked. I don't know, Lily cried. He left with a bag, said he was handling things, and that if I didn't stop crying, the people he owed money to would shut me up instead. I flinched despite myself. He kept saying your name, Lily continued. That you messed everything up, that you made him look stupid. He kept saying he'd fix it. I don't know what that means. Margaret leaned forward. Lily, we need to know exactly what he's planning. I'm trying, she sobbed. He was whispering into his phone the night before he left. I couldn't hear everything, but I heard the words, Florida, find her. And her breath stuttered. And collateral. The room seemed to tilt sideways. Margaret's expression hardened. Did he say when he was leaving that night, Lily whispered. He said staying home was wasting time, and that he wasn't going to let some princess ruin his life. Princess! That was what our father used to call me whenever he wanted to mock me. The word hit me like the ghost of a slap. You kept this from me. I said, not raising my voice but sharpening it until Lily inhaled sharply. I didn't know what to do, she cried. If I told you, he would have... You helped him steal my documents, I said. Silence thickened on the line. Her voice, when it finally came, was small. I know. You let him put my life in danger. I know, she whispered again. You wanted me to pay for everything he did. I know. I swallowed the bitterness rising in my throat. Why Lily broke? Because I was stupid and scared, and I thought she choked. I thought he loved me. I thought if I did what he asked, he'd stop. I didn't want to lose him. Lose him. Lose the man who'd destroyed her, who'd almost destroyed me. I closed my eyes. What else did he say? He mentioned 2 names I don't recognize, Marco and Vance. He said they don't do mercy, and that if you paid fast, they'd keep their distance. Margaret's eyes widened slightly. She knew those names. Lily Margaret said, her voice calm but precise. You just described a loan sharking network with ties in 3 states. Do you understand what that means? Lily's breath quivered. I didn't know. I thought he said they were investors. I almost laughed. It came out more like a sharp exhale. You believed him. I wanted to, she sobbed. It felt easier than believing someone would use me. I didn't want to be like Mom. My chest tightened unexpectedly. Lily, I whispered, you already are. A long silence, not defensive this time, just hollow. I know, she said quietly. The shift in her voice startled me. The hysteria had drained, leaving something bare, an admission I never thought she'd make. Lily Margaret said gently, we need your help. Ava needs your help. You're the only person who heard Connor's plans before he left. If you tell us everything, we can protect you too. I don't care about me, Lily whispered. I just want Ava safe. I don't want her to end up like our mother. She didn't say it, but I heard it. We both did. I'll tell you everything, Lily said. But you have to promise you won't cut me out of your life forever. I didn't respond. She made a broken sound. Ava, please, Margaret stepped in. Lily, your relationship with your sister can't be rebuilt today. Focus on doing the right thing. The rest comes later. Lily sniffed. Okay, start from the beginning, Margaret instructed. From the first time Connor mentioned the money. And Lily did. For the next 40 minutes, she talked, really talked. No theatrics, no manipulation, no dramatics, just the truth. Connor had been losing money for years, gambling idiotically on crypto scams and betting pools. Lily had covered for him with their landlord, their neighbors, even our extended family. She forged signatures not just for me but for her own bank documents, digging herself deeper each year. When Connor discovered the loan shark network through a friend, he borrowed small at first, enough to pay rent, enough to look stable, enough to keep Lily believing in him. But then he borrowed big and bigger, until he owed more than he could ever repay. That was when he looked at me, not as a person, not as a sister-in-law-to-be, not even as family, but as a solution. He said you were smart, responsible, that you always cleaned up after everyone, Lily said, voice trembling. He said if anyone could fix this, it was you. I felt sick. Because it was true. I'd always been the one who fixed things. Not anymore. And he forged the loan using my identity, I asked. Yes, she whispered. He had a guy named Marco who works with false documents. Connor paid him with money borrowed from someone else. The spiral was dizzying. And the black sedan, I asked. One of the collectors, Lily said. Connor said they were driving by your house to remind you what was at stake. The room grew colder. And the texts, Margaret asked. Connor sent them, Lily said. He bragged about how scared you sounded. He said fear was leverage. I closed my eyes, bile rising in my throat. He told Marco, Lily whispered, that if you refused again, they'd send someone to motivate you. Motivate. A disgusting euphemism. A threat I'd felt in my bones since the moment I fled. Margaret scribbled notes, jaw clenched. Lily, I need one more thing. What? Lily asked weakly. What's Connor's endgame? What does he want now? A shaky breath. He told me that if he couldn't get the money, he'd take something from Ava that mattered. The words hit like ice water. What does that mean? I asked softly. I don't know, Lily cried, I swear, but he said he'd make sure you never forgot your place again. My heart pounded. Place. The same word Dad used. The same word Connor used. My whole life had been shaped by men who believed my place was beneath them. I'm sending everything you told us to Detective